Hey guys, hi. Our program starts in a minute or so. We wait for other participants and our resource person to join. So before that, I hope your devices are charged. If not, find yourself near a comfortable place near a charge socket and settle down. Thank you. Also, I hope you have all switched off your audio. Thank you. Hello all, pleasant afternoon to each one of you. On behalf of the Psychology Department of Ph.D. CAS, I would like to extend a very warm welcome to you all. We appreciate you taking time off your schedule to join us today. Welcome, sir. Here's Preeti with an inauguration note.
Hello everyone. So I have a small poem. Each day is a chance. Each day we wake up, we have another chance. We could just keep on moving, or we could decide to dance. Dance as if you're alone and no one will ever see, as this is your chance to see what you could be. Remind yourself you are someone who is grand. Believe you can do anything. Get up and take a stand. Always keep looking forward. Looking back is never good. You want to look to the future, and that is something you should. Thank you.
Thank you, Preeti. So, have you ever been healed by a long conversation with someone where you were given full attention and felt the other person really listened to you without judgment? Has a particular relationship made you feel normal, lighter, or good about yourself? Chances are this happened in an environment that was trusting, open, and frank. Today's guest lecture is on one such form of communication known as motivational interviewing by our honorable resource person, Mr. Rojo Shalom George, who completed MPhil clinical psychology from NIMHANS, Bangalore. He worked as an assistant professor teaching undergraduate psychology. He is currently pursuing his PhD in clinical psychology at NIMHANS. His areas of interest include substance abuse disorders, personality disorders, psychotherapy research, and school mental health. We are privileged to have him here with us today. We hope you find this lecture to be fruitful and engaging. Please try to be as interactive as possible. Thank you. You can start the session, sir.
Hello, can someone just confirm if I'm audible?
You're audible, sir. You are audible.
Thank you, thank you. So I'll just share my slides now. Alright, can someone confirm if the slide is visible?
Yes, sir, it is visible.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all. First of all, thank you, PhD, thank you, Department of Psychology, unaided, PhD College of Arts and Science for inviting me here. I've seen that there are other interesting topics also which are being covered in these 3 days. And uh, I think it's a really great topic to kind of cover up for people who are in this field of psychology because motivational interviewing is um, it's something that you will require in almost every areas of life. And I think somebody who read before about having a very healing conversation kind of rightly captured about what motivational interviewing is like. Um, so let's go ahead and see what it's like. I'm sure some of you may have heard about it in different contexts. I'm going to be covering a little in a very generic sense about what motivational interviewing is. And in between, I might be asking you questions or asking you to participate along with me in terms of discussions. But also at the end, I'll have some time so that you can have any questions from this presentation or anything related that you can ask me at the end. So if you have any questions you feel like you want to ask at the end, you can make a note of it and then ask me. So my name is Rojo, and like the speaker mentioned that I'm a PhD scholar in NIMHANS, and I work in the area of substance use disorders. Motivational interviewing is one of the predominant styles that we use when working with people with addictions, which is one reason why I think um, it's a wonderful opportunity for me to share with you what we how we work in addictions also. Though my approach is not going to be specifically related to addictions, but yes, let's see how it comes out. Let's see. Another approach is guiding here, in which, like for example, if you went to a new city, I'm taking an example from the textbook on motivational interview. But if you went to a new city and you wanted someone to, point you to the, let's say, to the museum there. Let's say you want to go to the museum. Um, you would ask this person that how to go to the museum. So the person might say, okay, this is the route, and this is the route, and this is the route. But the person will not walk with you the whole time. They will not come and tell you something like, okay, you should take the bus, or you should do this, you should do that. They will just tell you, this is how where you're supposed to go. These are the options you have. You can go in this way. Then you have the following approach where the person says, I trust your own wisdom. I will stay with you and will let you work it out in your own way. So it's the following approach here, where you're saying, okay, you know everything. You just go ahead, you do whatever you have to do, and I will just watch you do it. Now, what do you think is the style that is used in MI?
I think it's following suit.
Following, okay. Anyone else has any other idea of what the style in MI?
Sir, I feel it might be guiding.
Mhm. Okay, so I'm going to kind of talk about other schools of psychotherapy or counseling, which will help us understand this a little bit better. So if you think of the psychodynamic approaches or the behavioristic approaches we see, which style do you think is being used there? Psychodynamic approach to counseling, or psychoanalytic or behavioristic approaches? A very directing approach is used there. If you see that the therapist uses their position of this, at least the radical versions of these forms of therapy, the older versions, they use their position of authority to tell the client that this is what it means, that this is what it means. So when they interpret dreams, or when they talk about transference or countertransference, or when they talk about resistance, they're telling things like, okay, so this is what is happening, and this must be what it is. And from my years of expertise and knowledge, this is exactly what you're experiencing. It's a very directing kind of an approach. Whereas if you see the client-centered approaches, a very following approach is used there. So you kind of give this space for the client to have their own experiences, talk about what is happening within them, and understand things from their own perspective, and so on. So there's lesser of an active involvement from the therapist or the counselor, whereas in directing approaches there's a lot of involvement there. The guiding approach is like a balance between the two, where you're trying to direct the person also, but also you're trying to kind of work with the patient in terms of what they want. So behind or forward, but rather you're walking along with them, side by side. So yes, MI uses more of guiding approach, which is why if you see in MI, we also talk about advice. And I think a very common thing that is understood is in counseling, you never advise, right? I'm sure you must have heard this a lot of times. No advising in counseling. But in MI, what happens is advice is given, but there is a catch to that. So when you give an advice in MI, you always take permission. For example, instead of saying something like you should go and exercise more often because you've been putting on weight, so go exercise more often. So rather than saying something like that, you would say something like, so that's an advice. What I just mentioned. You would say something like, can I suggest something if that's okay with you? And if the person says yes, then you go ahead and give the advice. So that's how a directing approach would be and a guiding approach. Whereas the following approach would be like, what do you think you would like to do for this? And just leave it up to them for doing whatever they feel is good. Whereas the guiding approach would involve, the therapist involves a little bit more than following, a bit little less than directing. So you see here, this graph will explain to you where each of those styles of conversation, how they are distributed, let's say in terms of informing, asking, and listening. So you see, in the directing approach, informing is a lot of informing happens. Uh, Very less of asking, a little bit more of listening. In the following approach, you see there's a lot of listening, a little less of asking, and even a little less of informing. Whereas the guiding approach has almost like an equal emphasis on all three of them. So that is the style that MI uses uh, in their conversations with the patient or the client. So yes, have any of you tried changing someone else? Now we've talked about changing ourselves in terms of um, the resolutions that we set for ourselves. But have you ever tried to bring change in somebody else? And if you tell me no, I think you're lying because you're
Yes.
hello.
Yes, sir.
Yes, yes, right. So we do it all the time. We want people to change around us. We want them to be like the way we want them to be. So we try so much. And what is the experience like? Is it easy?
No, sir.
Right? It's not very easy. So what has the experience been like for anyone who's tried to change? I hope you don't use any identities, but you just can tell your experience, your personal experience, how it has been. How have you felt in the whole process of trying to change somebody? I'm sure you'll be thinking of probably your parents, getting them to see your point of view. You know, that would be one very common example that
Yes,
probably
sir.
people in your age would, yeah, experience that right often. How does it feel, trying to change someone?
So Jesse in that book says it's frustrating.
It's frustrating. Okay, I was looking for that word. Yes, it can be really frustrating. What else?
It doesn't normally work out. Like,
It doesn't normally work out. Mhm.
We can end up
We
in a conflict.
We end up having more conflicts. Yes, yes.
we usually get a feedback saying you don't understand anything, you don't understand how it feels.
Yeah, so you basically get them to, they begin to say the things that we feel now. They say things like you don't see how we see it and so on. Yeah, so you see,
It's like a war, sir.
it's like a war. Yes, it can turn into a war. Yes. So yes, all of you are very right in saying yes. It's so difficult to change someone. But as mental health professionals, people when they come to you saying that okay, I have some trouble in my life and I want to do something about it, and that's why they come to you. So do you think if they have come to you now that they are going to be ready for change?
no, sir. I mean, even if you think you want to change, it doesn't really happen very easily.
Right. Some of you have already given the examples like that. Like you've set out with resolutions for yourself and you found it difficult yourself. You know you want to make this change, but still something comes in the way. So, there are a lot of issues. Like I don't want to go into the dynamics of how these things happen. But one way you can see it is that the client comes to you telling that okay, I have some trouble in life. I want to make a change here. And then what happens is the client may come with certain expectations. I want to do a change in only this way. I will not do it any other way. So if you and the client don't match on that, then there's going to be trouble there, right? So there's one way how let's say it doesn't work out when two people are trying to work towards change. But let's see some of the other things that come in the way. Something called a writing reflex. Like as help, being in the helping profession, one of the first things that we try and tell ourselves is that what, we need to try and understand the other's perspective. We tend to do that, and we also say that no, that I'm trying to help this person here. The helping profession is that basically. Like you're showing that you care for this person. You're showing you want something good for them. And so, out of all of these concerns, no matter how good your intentions are, we end up saying things like this: "Can't you see this is wrong? Just stop it." Right? And that is this reflex. Reflex is basically like a automatic response that we give when we see someone doing something so obviously wrong. Take addictions, for example. Somebody who is destroying their life because of an addiction, let's say. They're using the substance so much that every other area of the life is disrupted. Take somebody who is not having healthy eating habits. They're putting on weight. That's danger for them now, in terms of health wise. And you can see it is wrong, and you really care for this person, and then you're just frustrated because they can't you see this is wrong? Just stop it. The first thing that comes to mind is to tell them to stop it, right? So this is the writing reflex which usually comes up for us also as mental health, because after all we are humans, and we do get sometimes carried away by our own, let's say, emotions sometimes. So the writing reflex is something we try to avoid in motivational interviewing, because you see here you're not looking at what could be the person's reasons to change. You're looking at, okay, see, I see this is wrong. Can't you also see it? Stop it. So the reasons for change is more coming from you than from the client here. So the writing reflex is something that we try to avoid. Second is ambivalence. Um, what is ambivalence? Okay, as a rule for all of us, I'll wait for 10 seconds and then I'll just go. Okay. But yeah,
Mixed
yes,
feelings about something, sir.
great. That's great. Mixed feelings about something. That's perfectly said there. So you will notice that even though you decided to make a change, in the whole process, okay, in the whole process, you will notice that, like I mentioned earlier, on some days you don't want to do it. You know that you set out with this, energy to go do exercises and so on. But then on some day you feel like, today I don't want to do it. Just one day I don't want to do it. So ambivalence is basically this mixed feelings, or you can say, like the third person mentioned that she wanted to sleep and also she wanted to exercise. So wanting two things at the same time which are incompatible. Okay, so that is ambivalence is basically this kind of sense, the sense that you have that I want this, but I also want that. So usually, if you talk to somebody, yes, hello, okay. So usually, if you see somebody who's ambivalent, they would say things like, "Yes, I want to make a change, but I don't think I have the time." So you'll hear them saying something like, "Yes, but." That's the kind of talk that they would have. Okay, ambivalence um, is it unusual in this whole change process?
No, sir.
Right.
No.
It's not an unusual process. Yes, definitely. It's something you can expect. So ambivalence is expected while somebody's trying to make a change. So what we do is we try to work with the ambivalence rather than giving up on the individual. Like, hey, if you want to change, you change, man. Come on, don't keep talking about all of these reasons you don't want to change. Because that's not what we're going to see it as. Because ambivalence is a very natural process in this natural event in this change process. So when ambivalence comes up, we need to be able to recognize it and then address it also. So one way to recognize ambivalence is to see what kind of talk the client or this person is making. So there are two kinds of talks. One is called the change talk, one is called the sustain talk. So change talk is basically when they're saying things like, you know what, I wish I could, I wish I had better friends, or you know what, I wish I had a fitter body, let's say. That's something what we call as change talk. Or like I think if I try, I can go to gym at least 4 times a week. These are examples of change talk. But sustain talk is something like, I don't know, it's not going to work for me. I think I'll just be this way. There's too much to study. I can't go to the gym and all. So all of this is sustain talk. So sustain talk is something that keeps you in the state that you are in, whereas change talk is something that talks about moving away from the state in which you are in right now. So ambivalence can be a really sticky place in the sense that people can stay in ambivalence for a really, really long time. They can keep because it's like the grass is greener on the other side. Like you go to the other mountain and this mountain looks more green. Then you come here, the other mountain looks more green. So it's like you can keep switching from a need to change to a need to remain the same, the way you are. So it can be really a sticky place, and people can stay here for a really long time. So it's as mental health professionals, as helping professionals, our task will be to help them to move from this place to the next step. What is the next step is something we will see in the slides that come later. But ambivalence is still better than denial. Like for example, at least the person is talking about, I don't know if I want to make this change because both looks good. It's better than saying something like, no, I don't want it. So denial is one of the first steps that come in. There's no problem for me. I don't have an addiction. I don't think I'm overweight. I don't think I need to study harder. I don't think I need to make this change. That is basically denial there. Ambivalence is where something you want to change, but also you don't want to change. It's still better than denial. So what could it mean if you or someone you know is not making a change? Do you think that all of them are in the same place? Because all of them are saying, I don't want to make a change. So would they all be in the same place?
No, sir.
Yeah. They could be at different points. Like I mentioned to you already, that how motivation is fluctuating, it's dynamic. So they could be at different points in their journey towards this change. What we need to do is we need to be able to identify at what point are they. So what helps us to do that is one of these models that we call as a trans-theoretical model of change. It talks about stages of change that progresses in a particular order. So the first we're going to see is pre-contemplation. So pre-contemplation is basically when someone is not thinking or not contemplating about change. They don't care. They don't care that there's something wrong going on here. because it just doesn't seem to be bothering them so much. That's one thing. Or even if it is bothering them, they might not be able to see how their distress is connected to their particular behavior. Let's take, for example, somebody who is, uh, let's say, drinking a lot. Now, every morning they wake up with a hangover, let's say, or they wake up and they're not able to concentrate in their work because they're feeling so tired in the morning. But still, at night they would go back and drink. Now, this person is experiencing distress, but they're unable to connect the association between the drinking behavior at night and this distress they're experiencing in the daytime. Right? Somebody feels that that they feel very unhealthy about themselves. They're having a lot of backaches, let's say, um, disturbed appetite and things like that, and they're experiencing the distress, but they're unable to uh, associate that with probably a lack of exercise, a lack of sleep, and behaviors like that. So that is what pre-contemplation is like. So our task as clinicians would be to help move our clients from one stage to the next stage. So, but before we do that, we need to be able to identify what stage the person is in. So we need to know what pre-contemplation means. So it means that the person is not thinking about change in pre-contemplation. Whereas in contemplation, that's the next stage, the person is thinking about change, but they're also thinking about remaining how they already were. So they're thinking about change, but they're also not thinking about change. So if you make the connection between our previous slides, you will see that ambivalence is something that you will mostly see in contemplation. So contemplation is a stage where you see ambivalence very strongly, because there are both sides that they want change, don't want change. So the task for us would be to move from pre-contemplation to contemplation, and if the person is in contemplation, we want them to move into preparation. So preparation is a stage where the person is thinking about change in a much more, let's say, a serious manner, but it is still very cognitive. So for example, the actions have not started yet. They are reading about how to make the change. So probably you might have experienced the ones who are going for exercises, or let's say the one who's talking about not having toxic friends. Probably you might be reading about, okay, what is an example of a toxic friend, or how to ensure that what kind of exercises should I be doing on a daily basis. So all of these things that you were reading, or let's say you were discussing with your friends, hey, you've been exercising, tell me what exercises you do. All of these are examples of preparation. So once the person starts preparing, then we want to move them to the next stage, that is implementing whatever they've read or heard from their friends. So action, right? So we need to get a client to move from pre-contemplation to contemplation to preparation to action, and then from action we want them to maintain these behaviors. So once they've started these behaviors, we want them to maintain these behaviors in the long run, because you know that motivation again is fluctuating. So the person might start out like the third person who told the story there about how in February things got difficult. So she was in the action stage in January, but in February, where we needed to maintain those behaviors, that seems to be coming in. The person may have gone back to a previous state, let's say, for some reason or the other, whatever the reason is there. But yes, we want to move from action to maintenance. And then there is a possibility that the person continues to maintain these behaviors, but it is also possible the person can have a relapse. So a relapse is basically going back to the phase before, let's say, the person started the change. So in this case, the picture you can see here, there's this person who wants to diet and exercise to become more fit. And the person is reading, the person has started out, and the person is also healthy, eating healthily also. But then there's a relapse where the person, goes back to eating the kind of food he was trying to avoid in the first place. So relapse can also happen. So you see the stages of changes here. So our first task would be to help try and identify at which stage of change is our client in. Because once you identify the stage, the techniques of MI will be used accordingly. Method MI is a guiding style, so it helps move a person from one stage to another. So we would use a specific techniques. Specific techniques are implicated in each of these stages. And that is how MI and the model of change is related. Anyway, so now we come on to the key elements of MI. Is there any questions till now?
Sir, I had a question.
Yes, okay.
since in pre-contemplation stage, the person will not be aware that their behavior is problematic.
Yes, yes.
So how can we how will MI help them to come to contemplation?
Okay. I think, yes, there are various techniques that we use in each of these stages. Probably I'll spend maybe 5 minutes on that so that we can just cover what kind of techniques you can use in each of these stages. So, for example, let's say pre-contemplation. The person is not aware of a particular problem there. So, what we, at least in addiction, what we do here is when a client comes to us for the first time and they feel like, no, I don't think it is a problem, we tell them, okay, can we do an evaluation first? Let's see how things are. And then we do their, let's say, blood and urine test, we do their other bodily functions test, we do. And then we have the report at the end of the day. And then we show this report to them saying that, hey, see, this is the normal range, and where your score falls is falling above the range of normal, more than the range of normal, which means there is something wrong in this bodily function that you have. And if this continues further, it can not be healthy for you. So in pre-contemplation, one of the things that we try to do is we try to give feedback to our clients about what is happening in their life right now, right? But the way the feedback is given also is very important because they can be not willing to listen to you. It is very important for you to use one of the skills of MI, which is called as empathy. So we need to express empathy in this whole process that the person is, whatever distress is there or they're struggling or whatever it is, we need to be able to express empathy while we convey this feedback. We can also threaten the person. You can always tell the person, hey, see, if you continue, you're going to die or something like that. But then that is not what MI is. MI doesn't work on threatening the person, saying that if you continue doing this, you're going to have a heart attack and then you're going to die. No. We're going to say that this is what is happening here. If it goes on further, it can really hurt you, hurt your family, and so on. Is there something that you would like to do about it? So, pre-contemplation, one of the most important techniques that you would use is feedback, but feedback with empathy. Okay? And then you move to contemplation. Now, you say contemplation, the predominant quality there is ambivalence. So, ambivalence means the person wants two things at the same time, which means you can imagine a seesaw. The person is on a seesaw, and the seesaw keeps moving back and forth. It doesn't decide where it wants to rest. So the person seems to be on the seesaw, deciding this and deciding that. So what do we do in one of the techniques that we use in the contemplation stage is we ask them to think about what are the pros and cons of making a change and not making a change. So what would be the positives if you made the change? List them down. Okay. What would be the positives if you didn't make the change? List them down. There must be some positives, right? If you don't make the change also. Like for example, our again third participant there. I'm sorry I keep going back to her, but then the positives of not exercising was probably longer sleep, something else like that. So what are the positives of not making a change? Similarly, what are the positives of, negatives of both making a change and not making a change? So you're going to look at the pros and cons of that change. And then because you want the person to move into a more decisive point where they say, okay, I want this change. So you help them to contrast these two. That is one way that we can work in contemplation stage. Another way that we work is help them to see what their values are. Like many people over time would have lost their sense of values. Like they might have valued fitness when they were younger, but now somehow they've lost that, or let's say the value is there, but they're not working towards it. So in contemplation, another thing that we do is we try to show them that this is where you are and this is where you want to be. See the discrepancy between the two. There is a difference between where you are now and where you want to be. So would you like to do something about it? Right? So that, okay, change is something that will help you because it matches with the values that you have, a value of fitness, a value of good relationships, a value of good health. So we try to get them to see that. So there are many techniques like these. These are two techniques that you would use in contemplation. In preparation, what you would do is because the person is trying to find out what are the things that I need to be doing to make this change. You give them information. So there's one technique is called the menu of options. So we give them a menu of options. Say, okay, these are all the things that you have in front of you. You could exercise, you could diet, you could go to a yoga class, you can go do this, you can do this. Are the different options that you have. What would you like to pick from here? So in preparation, you would kind of make it clear for them to reach out to. Who are the people that you can help the person with? So that's what you will do in preparation. In action, you would make a plan how to carry out these ideas. In action, you actually help them to set out and do it. Like, for example, 6 o'clock you wake up and go for a run, things like that. The spirit of MI and the process of MI. I'm not going to go very much in depth for this, but I'm going to show you some of the resources that you can use um, to go back and read, because I don't think we have that much time to cover all of them in depth. I'm hoping to kind of, touch upon all of these things so that at least you are left with something you can go back to read on and practice also. So we're going to first see the principles of MI. So the one of the nice things about MI is that there are a lot of acronyms. So you can think of the principles of MI as DARES, DARES. So the principles means what are the guiding rules that you would follow when doing your MI practice. So I mentioned earlier about developing discrepancy as one of the techniques I talked about in the state of ambivalence. So one of the principles of MI is you're always trying to develop discrepancy between where they are currently and where they wish to be in the future. So you would use their goals and values. Is anyone aware what a goal is and what a value is? What would be the difference between these two? Okay, so a goal is basically a definite point in the future where you want to reach. So it could be, let's say, you want to reduce your weight from 60 to 58 in a month. It's a definite concern. But what is the underlying value that goes there? It could be, the value could be different. For them, the value might be probably I look prettier if I'm losing weight. Probably I look fit. Probably I can go for that. I want to participate in sports activities. So the values could be varying from person. So value is something that is there throughout. There is no end point to it. It's there throughout, and a value can be manifested in multiple behaviors. A goal is like a definite point in the future where you want to reach. So development discrepancy basically is that, okay, where you are right now and where do you want to reach? Or what are the values that you have, but you're not implementing them in your life? Let's say somebody values family, but they have not been giving time to their family. So we'll talk about, okay, how can we make this happen? So that's by developing discrepancy, you want to kind of increase the motivation for the person to move towards, or let's say you're trying to increase the salience or the importance of that particular future goal or value by developing discrepancy. Another principle is avoiding arguments. Now you would have known this already, but somebody already mentioned it's very frustrating, it becomes a war, it's struggle and things like that, right? So you will notice it happening with your clients also. Like if you try, for example, what happens is in ambivalence, if you try telling them that this is why they need to change, and a person with ambivalence has both sides of the story. They have a reason to change, they have reasons not to change also. But if you focus on any one side too much, then the other side gets activated in the other person. And you would notice this even in your interaction psychoanalytic approach to counseling. Broadly, we can just see it as some kind of hindrance in wishing to do what they're supposed to be doing. A lot of people, so at least let's say 30 to 30 years back, 30 to 40 years back, before MI came very strongly in the field of counseling, people with addictions were seen as very resistant people. They were seen as people who were so unreasonable, they don't want to change. No matter how much we try, no matter how much money we invest in them, they don't want to change. They just keep going back to the addictions again and again and again. They're very resistant people. That's how people with addictions are seen. But then once MI came into picture, they saw that it is not about the client that is very, something about them that is resistant, but it's the style of interaction that the mental health professional has with the client. So what they found is when they're using a very directive of the addictions, be with that approach. So the resistance would come up very strongly in such cases. So that's why MI started using a different approach for conversation to deal with this resistance. So the principle here is to roll with resistance rather than fight resistance with resistance. You're going to roll with them. So like it's the image that we usually give is, I think it's judo, in which your opponent tries to come and push you down, but then you use your opponent's force to turn them over and put them down, right? So you're using the force of your opponent to win over them. So that's what you're doing here, rolling with resistance. So the technique that you would use in towards reflections, which we'll see in some time again. The next slide we'll see that. That's one of the skills that you would have in your mind. Then you have E, that is express empathy. I will not spend very much time on that. But then empathy is important for you to develop a healthy relationship, an alliance with your client, so they feel respected, they feel cared for. And the last principle is supporting self-efficacy. Can someone tell me what is self-efficacy? Or who gave the concept of self-efficacy?
Albert Van Buren.
Great, yeah. So what did he say? What is self-efficacy? So basically, it is a belief in your ability to be able to do something. So whether it is exercise, whether it is to give up smoking, whether it is to initiate a new behavior, whether it is to commit to healthy friends. So it's a belief in your own ability to do something. So what we want to do as a principle of MI again is to support the self-efficacy. So we want to kind of highlight the strengths of the patient, the client, remind time that they were able to do something positively. So see that there is hope that you can change because there have been instances in the past where you've been able to do it, right? So this is the principles of MI. Then you have the skills of MI. Again, there's an acronym here, OARS. The first is open-ended questions. So open-ended questions are those questions which give you a wide range of answers. Like for example, if I say, "What did you do?" If I say something like, "What did you?" Uh, yeah, where are you from? You might give me a one-worded answer like, "I'm from Tamil Nadu" or "I'm from Karnataka." You might say something like that. But if I say something like, "Tell me about yourself," you will tell me where you're from, but also a lot of other information. The idea of open-ended question is not information gathering, but it is to kind of elaborate more on the patient's experience. And the patient feels there is genuine interest from the other person towards me. It's not only specific information they're looking for, but also whatever else I want to say. So the patient feels like, okay, they can choose to give you the information they want to give you. So there's a lot of autonomy that you're, or agency that is supporting, like the person, independence. The person can do what they wish to do that way. Whereas closed-ended questions will actually end your conversation very soon. Like you might have seen this in awkward conversations. Like you say, "Okay, so how are you? Fine. Where are you from? Tamil Nadu. So what are you doing here? Class." So you can have these one-worded answers coming up, and at one point you just end up like stopping asking questions because there's no more questions you can ask them. But open-ended questions give you a lot of freedom to choose from whatever information your client is giving you, and then you work on that. See, one idea of MI also takes a lot of ideas from operant conditioning that you have it in your the school of behaviorism. So operant conditioning is basically you're reinforcing certain responses so those responses can continue, right? So what we do in MI is that if the person gave you 5, 6 pieces of information, and if you as a clinician feel that two of this information is very important in bringing about change, when you reflect back, like what we talked about is a skill that we have in dealing with resistance, when you reflect back, you will choose those two information which you feel is important for change, and you will ignore the others. So actually, what you're doing is subtly taking the conversation in the direction towards change, forcing statements about change and ignoring statements about not change. So what we talk about sustained talk and change talk. So you try to reinforce more of change talk and ignore the sustained talk. By doing that, you're trying to move your client more towards change than towards not changing. So open-ended questions are a way to kind of get the whole range of statements from your patients, and then you select which statements you want to reflect back to. Affirmations are looking for strengths. The opposite of that is to make them feel bad so they can change. Like if you continue doing this, your family will leave you. And hoping that this will cause a change. It's different from affirmation. Affirmation is where you look for strengths. Like, see, what were those nice for your family? How were you able to do it then? Can we do it again? Try and see again. So affirmations is there. Appreciating them when your client comes to you on time, saying things like, "Hey, you came on time, great," or something like, they did something they were not able to do for the last few weeks, and you say, "Hey, you were able to do this. That's amazing. Keep up." Like things like that. These are affirmations that we can use in MI. Then there are reflections. So reflections are basically it's a very important skill that we use in MI. Reflections are something that we, or as the word says, like you have a mirror in front of your client and you're reflecting back to the client what they've said. There are different uses of it. One use is for the client to realize that, oh, so my therapist understands what I'm trying to say. they've got it exactly like what I'm saying. So that is one thing, one use of reflections. But another use of reflection is also to kind of, elaborate more on the client's experience. I'll give an example here. Like if the client comes and tells you something like, they come and say something like, I don't want to change. And if you have some information behind, you can say, you would say something, if you're reflecting, you would say something like, it seems like you've tried a lot and you've come to a conclusion that you can't change. So you see the difference between what the client said and what you are saying is that you're adding a little bit more information to what the client is saying, and you're checking with the client, is this what it is? So if the client feels correctly understood, the client might say, yes, exactly, I've tried so much. I've tried this. So they give you much more information there, right? So reflections can be at different levels. So you can have very simple reflections where you're just repeating back to the client what they're saying. But then you have much more complex reflections where you're adding a little bit hypothesis or a guess or a hunch, and then you're reflecting back to your client. So with more practice, you can start using complex reflections, because if you keep using simple reflections, it might feel like, hey, why is my therapist just repeating everything I'm saying? So you want to finally start using complex reflections. But that can only happen if you have a good relationship with your client and you have a lot of information from the back to kind of, support your guesses or your hunches. And then you have summarizing. Summarizing is basically to kind of reflect back to the client, okay, so this is all we talked. This is what we said earlier. This is what we're saying now. You put all of it together and present it back to the client. So the client knows, okay, this is what we discussed in the whole session. It is also used to to transition from one topic to another. So if you're talking about something and you want to move to another topic, you would first summarize and then go ahead. Like for example, at the end of some of the slides, I asked you, like, is there anything you want to ask about those slides? So that's a sign that, okay, we're stopping about that and we're going to move into something else. Right? So summarizing is there. Then we go into the spirit of MI. So again, you have an acronym here, PACE. I think I'll stop here to kind of just go back to ask you guys if you have any questions on principles and skills. Anybody has any questions on principles and skills of MI?
No, sir.
Okay. I'll wait for another 10 seconds and then. Do I still have you all here? I can't see anybody actually. So.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Great. All right. So I think we'll move ahead to the spirit of MI. So we've talked about the principles, the guiding rules that you will follow when you're doing MI, and the skills, the most common skills that you will use in MI. The spirit. The spirit is the attitude that you'll have when you're working in MI. So what kind of an attitude should the therapist have in MI? Is the attitude of partnership, where both you and your client are on equal footing. No one is over the other then. So there is a collaboration that whatever you do will be done jointly, and no one person will be directing the other person. So it's a dance and not a wrestling match. So you see a dance, if it is not done together, like synchronously, you will be stepping on each other's foot. You might just, so if you not doing it in synchronous manner, then you're going to hurt each other. So it's MI is more like a dance than a wrestling match, right? So partnership is something that we're looking at. Then we're looking at A, it is acceptance. So acceptance has these 4 A's here: absolute worth, which means no matter what, how many times you failed, no matter how less motivated you are, no matter how difficult time you're giving me, you are of worth. You're of absolute worth. So there's no conditions to why should you be worthy or not. So this is basically taken from, if you're rightly guessed already, it's from the client-centered approach, where you're seeing your clients as having of absolute worth. Autonomy is encouraging them to take stand for their own behaviors, rather than you telling them to do what they have to do, encouraging them to come up with these things. Affirmation, like we've already discussed, empathy also we've already discussed. Then C is compassion. So in this case, we are looking at a total interest of the other person. We're totally seeing that how the other person is going to benefit from my interaction with from my interaction with him or her. So that is what you're seeing as compassion. Then evocation is basically looking at the client's reason, that we believe that whatever change is required or whatever reasons for change is there, it's the client who will bring up. We are not doing any of those things. We just need to kind of bring up these reasons for change from our clients. And finally, we have the process of MI. So process of MI is basically how you would do the MI. So what would come first, what would come then, what would come then, what would come then. So that's what we're seeing as process of MI. And if you see the table here, you can see engaging is throughout the whole process. Focusing comes in second, evoking comes in afterwards, and planning comes last. But engaging happens throughout, and then focusing, and then evoking. So once something starts, it goes on till the end. So the whole idea of engaging is to kind of make sure that your client is on the same page with you. Even before you, let's say if you started focusing on a particular target, let's say the client comes to you and you start saying something like, okay, come on, let's start exercising from tomorrow. You are, or as they say, not jumping the gun, they say that you're actually leaving a lot of other steps before and going in. So first you need to see if you and your client are on the same page. Do we agree on the fact that, okay, there is some change required here? Does the client feel that I am interested in their problem? Does the client understand what I am trying to say? Am I conveying to the client that I understand the client? Am I on the same page as a client? Am I feeling what the client is feeling correctly? So these are all questions that you would ask in the engaging stage. So some of the things that you have to keep in mind is avoiding traps. Now, I have not gone into what these traps are, but again, the resource material that I'm going to refer to at the end of the slides will have all this. So one of the traps that we talk about is the expert trap. There are several traps there. One of the traps is the expert trap, where as a counselor or as a therapist, if you start asking a lot of questions to your client, the client will answer very honestly. They will answer all your questions. But it can create a very passive position in the client. The client will begin to feel probably that this is how therapy works. So my therapist will come, they'll ask me questions, and then I'll answer, and then they tell me what to do, and then I'll go ahead and do it. But that is not what MI is, right? MI is a collaborative style where both are equally involved. So it is important for us not ask questions, but also balance it with other skills that we have, like reflections. So rather than only questions, we use other things also. So avoiding traps. Another trap could be a label. Like for example, if your client is not listening to you, you might have this, really intense need to say something like, "Hey, you know what? I've been doing this for the last 5 years, man. Just shut up and listen to me. I know that people, people in addictions will have this horrible life in the future. I've seen it. Just listen to me. And this is an addiction. This is basically a problem that you have. This is obesity, or this is a phone addiction that you have." By using these big labels, we try to get the person to listen to us. Now that is a trap again, because if you do that, the resistance against gets activated. The side of the ambivalence, which talks about not wanting to change, gets activated, and then you will start noticing the client as resistance, and then you will call the client as resistant, which happened 30-40 years back also, right? So it's about our conversation style. So how well we are able to engage with our clients, that helps us to move towards change also. So avoiding traps is one of those steps. So in the engaging phase, you can use techniques like the ORS, the skills that you talked about already. ORS you can use. Explore what their values and goals are. You ask them questions like, how is your life, and what do you like about your life, and things like that, and what are your aims in life, and where do you want to go from here. Generally about their life itself, rather than focusing specifically on the target behavior first itself. You talk to them about them, get to know the person. So that's where we talk about is engaging, because you will use all of these information, what their goals are, what their values are, to develop the discrepancy that we've already seen earlier between where they are now and where they want to go. So that's engaging. Once you feel the person is engaging well with you, that you both are communicating smoothly, you're dancing and not wrestling anymore, then you can move into the focusing part. Focusing is very good to point one area that you want to work in. There might be multiple things that the person has trouble with. Like for example, let's say addictions can affect people's occupations, it can affect their relationships, it can affect their physical health, their mental health, right? And addiction can affect so many areas again. So you would, okay, these are all the areas that are being affected. What would you like to work on? So you focus on one goal, and that is decided upon by the client. Again, because you're using a guiding approach, the client might say something like, I want to do this. You will not just let it go on that. So you'll ask us why this and why not this. You'll kind of discuss these things so that you're able to choose what to focus on. So focusing is what you're doing is focusing is where you're going to decide the what of your MI. What are you going to focus on? So once you're able to pick an area that you want to focus on, then you go into what are the reasons this person wants to do that. Then we come to the evoking part, the why in MI. So one of the techniques that you can use in evoking, for example, can I ask the third person again to just have this role play with me right now? The third person has said about the exercising and sleeping and timing and all that. Are you here?
Yes, sir. I'm here, sir.
Yes. So I'm going to ask, I'm just going to try out this particular skill with you. Let's see if I'm able to show the class what I'm trying to show actually. So
Yes,
so the importance ruler is basically like a ruler. So I'll ask you like on a scale from 1 to 10, 10 being you want to exercise, you definitely want to exercise, 10, and 1 being you don't want to exercise.
Okay.
Where do you fall?
I fall by around 5 or 6.
5 or 6. Okay. So now when we ask this question to our clients, they will give you a number. And this number is also quite enough to tell you, okay, so this person is somewhere in the average area because where they want to change. But the importance ruler has a follow-up question. So I'll ask this person again.
Yes, sir.
Why
I'm
not
here.
so why not a 2?
Sir, because since the lockdown started, I haven't been active much physically. Earlier, when we used to go to college, there was a lot of walking, climbing the stairs, and all. So now it's more or less like you sit in one place, sit in front of your laptop, and you just learn right now. So
Yes.
So I feel that I have to be more physically active. So I do understand the importance of being physically active.
Okay.
So that's why I feel like I'm not at a 2 because I understand the importance of it.
Right. So you see, the follow-up question brings up her reasons for change. She has told us that, okay, I'm having a very sedentary lifestyle now, which I don't like. I know the importance of being physically active, and I want that. So you see, by asking her why not a 2, I'm able to elicit her own motivations for making the change. Right? So this is an example of how the importance ruler works in the evoking phase. Thank you so much for role playing with me there.
Thank
But
you,
then,
sir. Thank you, sir. It was a pleasure, sir.
so you see how the importance ruler works here. So you ask them. So the evoking phase is where you're talking about the why of change, right? So she gave us some reasons why she wanted to make the change, right? And then planning. So once you have the reasons why, then you have to go into when will you start, what are you going to do, or how are you going to do it. So now we want to elicit the change plan. But elicit, what we say is get the client to tell you. So what do you feel you're going to do about it now, right? So you'll ask this question. So and the person can say, okay, I'm going to probably get up in the morning and go for a run and so on. Having a specific goal is important here because if you focus on too many things at the same time, it might not be feasible that way. So having a specific goal and creating a plan for that specific goal would be what happens in the planning phase. So you see the process of MI goes from engaging, focusing, evoking, and planning. Imagine you start planning. You tell the person, okay, fine, you tell me a plan. Even before the engaging or focusing starts, you tell the person, okay, tell me a plan. How are you going to become more fit? The person's motivation may not be there at the same. The person may have multiple other goals also in their mind. So all of that can interfere with the planning phase. So it is important for us to go from engaging, focusing, evoking, and planning. You need to see: am I engaging? Am I focusing? Am I evoking the motivations and so on? Yeah. So finally, what is not motivational interviewing? So we talk about change as the objective of motivational interviewing. So we can always get lost in this process. Like, see, motivational interviewing is something that even salespeople can use. They can, sell their product well by getting you to see the reasons why you should buy the product. And really good salespeople actually do that also. They have great persuasion skills, right? Let's know what is not motivational interviewing. To keep the right attitude again while we are practicing this particular approach in counseling. It is not being nice or non-directive. right? So sometimes you are going to point out things as they are, obviously in a very empathetic manner, but then it's not just being nice and non-directive where you say, okay, anything is fine, everything works. That is not what motivational interviewing is. Then it is not a technique, it is a style. So what that means is that even if you're using a CBT approach, let's say, or if you're using any other therapy format, let's say narrative approach or any other approach that you're using, or even if you're not using an approach, specific approach, you're just being a little eclectic or let's say integrative in your approach there. Motivational interviewing can be used because it is a style of talking, a style of conversing with another individual. So it's not a specific technique like what you might. A technique would be something like, let's say, uh, like I don't know if you've come across. Okay, in psychodynamic approach, at least we have dream interpretation. That's a technique, let's say, or transference interpretation would be a technique of change. That is a separate model. Motivational interviewing is different, but they're used together. So many people try to get confused that this is what motivational interviewing is. It's not the same as that. A lot of times we talk about assessment. Like, I don't know if you're aware of this, but then before you go into therapy or before you go into any kind of treatment, at least psychological treatment, a lot of assessment is done. You do personality assessments, you'll do an IQ assessment probably. You might assess their psychopathology if there is some kind of illness there. And then you will go ahead into therapy and so on. Whereas MI doesn't talk about assessment should be there. You can actually start doing MI even without an assessment, or at least even without a very comprehensive assessment. So MI can happen in 5 minutes. It can happen in 1 hour. It can happen in 4 sessions also. So MI can happen from a very small amount of time to a very large amount of time also, which means a lot of let's say doctors who see patients just for 5 minutes or even 10 minutes, they can also use MI to kind of motivate them to make that change. And finally, it is not manipulating people to do what you want them to do. Because like I said from the very beginning itself, it is helping them to look for reasons, their own reasons, for why they need to make the change. So it's not exactly manipulation, so which is where the compassion element comes in there, no? Pace that we have, the attitude of compassion, where you're looking at benefiting, a total benefit you're looking for your clients. And that is what, so all of these are not motivation interviewing. So with that, I'll stop here. The two books that you can refer to, Motivational Interviewing, the third edition is the book by Miller and Rolnick. And if you want to look into specific skills, then you can use this particular book. Both are freely available on the internet. You can download them and use them. Mint is an organization which works to train professionals in motivational interviewing. The skills or the resources that we have, we need to share our resources. So it's an organization, if you ever wish to, you can always go online and check there. So these are some of the references you can use. Yeah. We've got like 15 minutes. Any questions anybody has, you can ask me related to this presentation and also anything associated and then anything not so associated.
Sir, I have a question.
Okay. Yeah.
Have you ever been in a situation where you felt that the client is actually not going to change? And if yes, then how did you deal with that situation?
I just had to accept it. Yeah. It's not going to change. Okay. Yeah, it did feel that. Yeah, there have been times when the client doesn't feel that there is a problem. See, so I work in addiction. So what happens is that when they come to us, they're actually pretty, let's say, disturbed in the sense their physical health is bad, their mental health is bad, and once we treat them, they recover very fast also because once you remove the substance from their body, they're able to kind of do things well. Like they're able to think clearly. They're able to, walk around properly. They enjoy stuff that they're able to enjoy before. So they feel totally well. And what we call this is flight into health, we say. So once this happens, they actually feel like, hey, what makes you think I'm going to drink again? I know what my life was. I was struggling so hard just now. What makes you think I'm going to drink again? So don't see things as a possibility of a lapse so that we can probably drink again that way. So many times it does happen that there was no problem. So it takes a lot of effort to kind of. I mean, if you're able to see that, okay, this is very normal. It's a part of their recovery process where they're going to experience a lot of things like I won't change. Sorry, I won't drink anymore. Then you're kind of expecting it. So you anticipate this kind of reactions from your patients, from your clients. So first of all, that doesn't surprise me. So I don't get bogged down by that. Oh, it's happening now. It's very normal. Yeah, it happens that way. Two, how I approach it also is that you present to them all of these things, information that is there, and then you let them choose. So many times we do see that people go. They say that I don't want any help. I'm going, but then they come back later once something happens, or they come back to us. So what we make it very clear is that no matter what happens, whether you drink, whether you don't drink, come back to us if you need any help. So that's something we make it very clear to them. So if the person doesn't want to change, I would kind of put forward to them the options that they have whenever they wish for any help from us, and then come back, tell them how to reach out to us if they ever needed us. I would do that.
Thank you, sir.
Because in that process, you're actually encouraging the person's autonomy, right? You're telling them that you have the choice to do what you want to do. We're going to be here to help you out, but we're going to wait for you to kind of make the decision. So you're encouraging the person's autonomy there.
Uh, Sir, would
Yeah.
age range play a role in motivational interviewing? Because older adults find it a little more difficult to change. So, how would you tackle that, sir? Because they're very rigid and they have a well formed set of ideas, and it's very, very rigid and it cannot be changed very easily.
So when you say older adults, are you aware of what you're actually referring to then? Because you're
Sure.
referring to uh,
So I mean, like people who are 50 plus and who have the habit of drinking and are addicted and are
right.
sent by their sons or daughters to such camps.
Yeah. So you have your answer there. So they're sent by their sons and daughters. So they're not there for their own reasons, right? They have come there because somebody has forced them to come here. So what stage of motivation would this person be in? What stage of change? What do you think? You or anyone else can tell. So if this person has been sent by someone else to come and make a change, see, a person who has been into addiction for so long has already experienced a lot of, let's say, significant amount of dysfunction, distress, and ill health and so on. So the reasons for change are already there, but the reasons for not changing also are very significant. Like for example, somebody with addiction would experience very strong withdrawal symptoms if they stopped it. So they would need to be in treatment for dealing with that. That's one thing. Somebody may have started addictions to as a coping mechanism that whenever they're upset, whenever their mood goes down, this is the way how they deal with the situation. Somebody might have a habit of drinking or something because it gives them a sense of relation, like a relatedness, that they connect with friends over substances that way. Uh, and another interesting way to see it is that somebody might start seeing them as an alcoholic. That is my identity now. If this is my identity now, to change from who I am seems to be it's very frightening. Like I'm no longer a father, I'm no longer this, I'm no longer a husband, and all of these things. Because what I've been doing for so long is drinking, and then that's my identity. So to come out of this identity can also be threatening. So there can be different reasons why a person might not want to make the change. It's not just age. If you're able to identify these reasons, which can happen if you're going to have a conversation with them in a very empathetic manner, try to see what are their fears of changing, what will happen if they think, no, some people might think that I will change, but again I'll fail. So what is the point of it? So things like that. So it's not just age, There are multiple other things that can come into the picture for a person who's not willing to change. So dealing with them would be to kind of identify again, getting them to see. Definitely, they'll have reasons, inner motivations for changing, but somehow they're not as strong as the other side. So we need to kind of identify them and help them to see that.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Sir,
Yes.
when you try to help somebody out, sometimes they feel more helpless because when you tell them that something that they're doing is wrong, or they need to change or something like that, even however how much ever you empathize with them, they feel more helpless because a lot of people around them are telling the same thing. So that only like kind of demotivates them, I feel, because and I don't know how to get them out of it.
Right. So I think some of it already you said. When you said something like, no matter how much empathy I have, but if I ask them to change, they don't want to change because they are helpless, because everybody's been telling them and so on. First of all, if you're telling them to change, like change, telling them that way, you're actually engaging in the writing reflex, like we saw earlier. Um, and empathy is not enough. I need to be very clear. Empathy is not enough because you can empathize with someone, um, but if you don't engage in the right kind of conversations, then the person will just feel that okay, you understand, but then you don't want to do. I mean, see, you're not letting me do the things I want to do here. But we don't want to go into that. But then yes, if you're saying that the person, yes, you're very right in saying the whole world keeps telling that because everybody else sees that this is a wrong thing to do here, or this is not a healthy thing to do. Except, and even them, they're able to see that it is not a healthy thing to do. But what you do is that, I mean, if your question is what do we do about it, is that is to help them to see that okay, what both the sides of the story. Okay, why you don't want to do it, why do you want to do it, and then how do you want to proceed further from here? If there and if you're able to make a connection between the change and some positive benefits for them, then they might want to move in that direction. Um, I'm being a little vague because you have not given me an example there. But then, if you're taking the case of addictions, let's say stopping alcohol use, if you're able to link that with a better financial stability, or link that with the fact that you're able to, spend quality time with your family members, or link that to the fact that your liver disease is going to come down and have a healthy life, and if that is what this person wants, then you can create this discrepancy between where they are now. So if I keep drinking, this is going to happen. So let me kind of go to. But the thing is in style. It's not the information giving. It's you evoke these things for them. So you ask for the question would be something like this: what do you think will continue? What do you think will happen if you continue drinking? What do you think will happen if you stop drinking? It's an open-ended question, right? The person comes up with reasons. Okay, this can happen, this can happen, this can happen, and this can happen, this can happen, this can happen. Now, what do you want to do about it? Right? So what you're doing is again, all three questions allow the client to tell you their reasons, their motivations for moving forward. This is what you can do from your side. And again, you're going to help your clients to commit to change. You're not going to change your clients or change. If it is a friend, you're not going to change your friend. Um, so that is uh, that is something you have to remove from your head. You are not going to make the client change. You're going to help them. You're going to help them to commit to their reasons for change.
Yes, thank you.
Sir, I have a question.
Yes.
So, what if the person cannot proceed or like move progress from the action state and then they can't go to maintenance state? As in, you gave the example that for exercising, if they can't exercise during exams, when it's time for exams, you said that we could ask them to follow schedule and start studying earlier. And if the person's like, this is just too much work, I don't want to study and balance studying and exercising or before the exams,
Yeah.
and they don't want to proceed from there, what do you do then?
You do what the client wants to do. So the client is saying that they don't want to do it, and they find valid reason in doing that. See, we always do this, right? We always take a break from something to kind of, um, like I mentioned earlier, the arousal approaches to motivation. If you feel there's too much happening in my life right now and I need to kind of slow down or reduce some things, we will do that. But is your friend or is the client conflicted about this? If they're saying, I want this, but I also want this, like also if it is only for a short term, like you're looking at the long run. So by stopping exercising now, what benefits will you get in the short term and what benefits you get in the long run? So this person probably wants to stop the exercises for the short term alone, only for the exams, and then after that get back into exercising, right? So again, we need to again look at the reasons why the person is doing something. What are their reasons for engaging in this change in their behavior, and then work along with that.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. So see, two people will have different requirements. So we're going to work with those things. We need to give the space for them to be able to talk about those requirements or ask the questions in the right way to get them to tell us, share us these requirements.
Guys, please use the opportunity and ask if you have any doubts.